After a long shift, I returned home to find my in-laws hosting a dinner party using my dishes, my recipes, and not a single plate for me. When I reached for food, my mother-in-law slapped my hand and said, "Guests eat first." I took a photo and quietly walked upstairs because I've been a registered night shift nurse in Pittsburgh for 11 years. Anyone who's done hospital night shifts knows you don't live a normal life. You sleep during daylight, your meals get skipped or replaced by caffeine, and the silence of your home is sacred. Especially when you share it with someone who doesn't work the same hours. My husband, Marcus, works in IT. Day job, weekends off. He's always been close with his family, especially his mother, Diane. From the start, I saw the signs. She'd drop in uninvited, rearrange our spice rack, suggest better ways to load the dishwasher. I kept the peace. I thought this is what marriage is, you compromise. But over time, it became more than just small intrusions. Diane never liked that I worked nights. She said it wasn't healthy for a woman to be out all night. She once told me I should quit nursing and work in a nice doctor's office so I could be home to cook for her son. I laughed it off then. But now I realize she wasn't joking. Over the years, she got bolder. Borrowed our second car, without asking. Left food in our fridge that I didn't like, then complained when it went untouched. But I held the line. Marcus and I had boundaries. Or, at least, I thought we did. I started batch cooking once a week. My recipes. Stuff I grew up on or learned during college in North Carolina. I even created a share recipe doc Marcus could access. He liked cooking, but not from scratch. He liked having things ready to heat and eat. I didn't mind. I liked knowing he had something good while I was working nights. Last Thursday, I got off after a rough shift. We lost a patient early in the night, a 42-year-old stroke victim. I hadn't eaten since 5 a.m. I just wanted to go home. Maybe microwave some of the curry I'd made 2 nights before and sleep. But when I opened the door, everything was wrong. Voices. Laughter. The sound of my wine glasses clinking. I walked into my own house and found 9 people seated around my dining table. Diane was at the head, like she owned the place. My sister-in-law Laura was slicing into my roast lamb. Even the dishes were wrong. They were right, actually, they were mine. The ones I pull out once a year. And they had used everything. No one looked up. No one said, "Hey, welcome home." I asked, "What's going on?" Marcus barely turned. "We're doing dinner for Mom's group. She wanted to try out some of the dishes you made." Diane chimed in, "Yes, we just love your little recipes. You really should share them." My little recipes. I was stunned. Not just at the audacity, but that no one saved me a plate. That no one even cared I was home. I said, "I haven't eaten since this morning." I reached out for a piece of bread, literally bread, and Diane slapped my hand. Not hard, but enough to sting. She looked me in the eye and said, "Guests eat first." I looked at Marcus. He said nothing. Didn't even shrug. I took out my phone and snapped a photo. Diane standing in my kitchen. Plates full. My tablecloth. My food. Everyone happy except me. Then I walked upstairs. I didn't yell. I didn't make a scene. I didn't say another word. I locked the bedroom door, sat on the floor, and stared at that photo. And something broke. Not in a dramatic way. Quiet. Cold. Like ice cracking under the surface. That was the moment I knew. This wasn't just disrespect. This was a calculated move. They didn't forget I was coming home. They didn't overlook me. They erased me. And now I'm going to erase them right back. The next morning, Marcus acted like nothing had happened. He came upstairs with a mug of coffee and set it on the nightstand like he was doing me a favor. I hadn't slept. I'd just been lying there, replaying everything in my mind. "You were quiet last night," he said. I stared at him. "You let your mother slap my hand." He shrugged. "It wasn't a slap. Come on. It was my food. My dishes. You didn't even save me a plate." He sighed like I was the problem. "Look, it was last minute. She wanted to impress her friends. You weren't going to be home anyway." "I live here," I said. "This is my home. You should have called." That was when I saw it, that flicker in his eyes. He didn't think he did anything wrong. He thought I was being dramatic. After that, something shifted. I stopped cooking. If they wanted to use my recipes, let them figure them out. I changed the password to our shared doc. I locked my recipe notebook in my locker at work. I even started taking leftovers with me, so nothing was left in the fridge.
Diane noticed it fast.
The next time she dropped by, she opened the fridge and said, "What happened? Starving your husband now." I didn't respond, just grabbed my keys and left. Then the pettiness started. She started forgetting to knock when she came over. Once, I walked out of the shower and found her in the hallway. When I asked what the hell she was doing, she said she needed to borrow Tupperware. Tupperware. She made comments about the laundry, about dust, about how I looked tired. I told Marcus we needed to put up some real boundaries, but he refused. "She's just trying to help," he said. Then one day, I came home and found Diane had cleaned out the spice cabinet. My labeled jars were gone, replaced with bulk containers she liked better. That night I told Marcus, "I want the locks changed. I want her to stop coming over when I'm not home." He said, "She's my mom." And I said, "I'm your wife." But it was clear who he'd already chosen. So I started documenting everything. Every time Diane entered the house without permission. Every photo of her using my things, every time she called my food cute or exotic or a bit heavy on the seasoning. I recorded conversations. I saved texts. I even installed a hidden camera in the kitchen, just one, right above the stove. I didn't tell anyone. 2 weeks later, I caught them, Diane and Marcus, laughing while she pulled out one of my frozen containers, dumped it into a pot, and started plating it on a serving tray. He told her, "She's got enough in the freezer for next week's church group, too." Church group. That's when I knew this wasn't just about dinner. They were using me, my labor, my skills, my home, and they felt entitled to all of it. I didn't say a word that night. I waited. I needed more. I needed a plan. I needed something they couldn't lie their way out of. So I started feeding them wrong. The food I left behind wasn't seasoned. I used fake labels. I left curry labeled as chicken pot pie. Enchiladas labeled as lasagna. Recipes that only I could fix, and when she tried to serve them as her own, it backfired. Every time, her guests started complaining. One even posted about a bizarre, bland dinner party on Facebook. I saw it. It had her name tagged. And still, Marcus didn't get it. He kept brushing it off. Until the day Diane accused me of sabotaging her on purpose. I looked her in the eye and said, "You are never supposed to touch my food." And she said, "Everything in that kitchen belongs to this family, not just you." That was it. She wanted war? I was ready now. I knew I couldn't outshout Diane. She lived for conflict, the kind where she could twist words and cry about being disrespected in her son's home. But I could do something better. I waited. Watched. Then I noticed something I hadn't before. Diane wasn't just using my food. She was selling it. I found out through a mutual acquaintance, a nurse I used to work with, whose mother went to a Wednesday night church meeting out in Mount Lebanon. She texted me, "Your mother-in-law caters now? Didn't know you two were in business." I almost dropped my phone. I asked her to send pictures. She did. Photos of Diane standing next to foiled trays filled with my lemon chicken, my baked ziti, my apple crumble. The same crumble I made every fall, passed down from my aunt in Asheville. She had even printed little cards that said, "Diane's Kitchen, home-style flavors." That was the final crack. I confronted Marcus that night. "She's selling my food. She's making money off of it." He didn't deny it. He didn't even flinch. "She only takes donations," he said. "People offer what they can." Donations? You think this is okay? You think she's entitled to profit off my recipes without even asking? He stared at me. "Maybe if you shared more, she wouldn't have to do it behind your back." That's when it hit me. He didn't see it as theft. He saw it as something I owed. I didn't speak. I didn't yell. I packed a duffel bag, walked out, and didn't come back. I stayed at a friend's place for a week. In that time, I went full ghost. No calls.
No texts.
But I wasn't idle. I filed a cease and desist letter. Official, typed, mailed through an attorney friend. I registered copyright claims for the original recipes I'd created and saved dated copies from the Google Doc and my handwritten book. I set passwords and permissions on everything I owned digitally. Then I filed a formal police report, unlawful entry, property use without consent, suspected theft of intellectual property. The report wasn't a bomb. It was a slow burn. The cops didn't arrest anyone. But they paid Diane a visit. She called Marcus in hysterics. Then Marcus called me, furious. You didn't have to take it that far, he said. Yes, I did, I told him. Because you never stopped her. You handed her the keys. He hung up. I waited again. Another week. And then I played the final card. I leaked the kitchen camera footage. A short clip. Nothing dramatic. Just enough. Diane dumping my food into trays. Marcus laughing. Her saying, she'll never notice. I posted it in a private Facebook group for local caterers, tagging it, "Be careful who you hire. This woman serves stolen food and lies about its origin." It spread. Quietly, then loudly. One of the women Diane had served confronted her at the next church event. Another canceled a donation order. A third demanded her money back. Diane called Marcus. Marcus texted me, "You ruined her reputation." I texted back, "She never had one. She stole mine." After that video spread, things got tense. Not just for Diane, but for Marcus too. Apparently, someone from his job saw the post and asked him if it was his mom. HR got involved because they had just hired a vendor for a holiday event, and Diane had submitted her name as the caterer, using his email as the contact. He hadn't told me that. So now, not only was Diane humiliated publicly, but Marcus was under internal review for potentially using company channels for personal family business. He tried calling me again. I ignored him. That week, I finally returned home, but not to stay. I'd already met with a lawyer. We started discussing separation and eventually divorce. Pennsylvania has no-fault laws, but I was documenting everything. Financial records, grocery receipts, screenshots, witness statements. I also met with a small business consultant, someone who helps nurses and chefs launch legitimate meal prep or catering services. I told her everything. She said, "You've got more than a case. You've got a story. If you want to turn this into something real, I can help." I never thought about going independent.
But now?
It felt like the one thing I could do that no one could take from me. Meanwhile, Diane spiraled. She started going to other family members, spinning tales, saying I was ungrateful, unstable, trying to tear the family apart. She told Marcus's sisters that I had poisoned the family with fake food, that I had set her up. One of them, Julie, called me to say, "I don't know what's going on, but it's gotten ugly. Diane told my husband you were putting spiced ingredients in her meals." Spiced ingredients? I asked. She said your lasagna had chopped liver in it. I laughed for the first time in weeks. That was tofu. Julie paused. You never deserved this. It wasn't much, but it reminded me not everyone believed Diane. But Marcus still did. Or at least he wanted to believe her, because it was easier than facing the truth. Then the subpoena came. I had filed a small claims lawsuit against Diane for theft of intellectual property and damages from unauthorized catering sales. Nothing outrageous, just enough to get it on record. And she'd have to appear. When Marcus got served, he lost it. He came to the house, the one we still technically shared, and pounded on the door. I didn't answer. He stood outside for 20 minutes yelling, begging, threatening, then finally crying. "I thought we were a team," he shouted. I finally opened the door and stood in the doorway. I didn't invite him in. "We were," I said, "until you let her eat everything I built and then told me to get over it." He looked broken, but I felt calm, because I wasn't done. The court date came faster than I expected. Diane showed up in a peach blouse and pearls like she was heading to a church bake sale. Marcus came with her, still in denial, still standing by her side. My lawyer laid everything out. The original recipe notes, time-stamped files, receipts, the video footage, even copies of Diane's fake catering flyers. She tried to lie, said it was family food, said I gave her permission. Then we played the clip of her saying, "She'll never notice." The judge didn't need much more. She ruled in my favor. Diane was ordered to pay damages and stop using or distributing any of my recipes in writing. She tried to protest, but the judge shut it down cold. You knowingly misrepresented someone else's work as your own for profit. This is theft. Marcus didn't say a word during the hearing. Not one. Outside the courtroom, Diane turned to me and hissed, "You'll regret humiliating me like this." I said, "That wasn't humiliation. That was accountability. You should learn the difference." She walked away. Marcus stayed behind. He looked at me like he wanted to say something. Maybe apologize. Maybe explain. But I didn't care anymore. So I said it for him. You stood by her because it was easier than standing up to her. I needed a partner. You chose a parasite. And I walked away. That week, I officially filed for divorce. I moved into a new apartment across town, closer to the hospital, quieter, cleaner. I used part of the settlement money from Diane's damages to invest in a small business license for a catering brand of my own. Real this time. Legal.
Documented.
I called it Midnight Kitchen. A nod to all the nights I spent cooking between shifts while everyone else slept. My first clients were nurses, then doctors, then neighbors, people who respected the work,
People who paid.
people who said thank you. The business grew. Diane's social circle shrank. She tried to rebuild her image, but the catering circles in Pittsburgh are tighter than she thought. Word got around. No one would work with her. She tried using different names. I caught her every time. My attorney sent cease and desist letters like clockwork. Marcus? Last I heard, he got passed over for a promotion at work. HR didn't want the liability. He's still in their childhood home with Diane, trapped by the same comfort that made him weak.
Me?
I sleep well now. Not because I got revenge. Because I got free. And I made damn sure they knew I'd never be hungry in my own home again.